Hi and welcome to this analysis video. I'm going to look at the game that I played in the Icelandic League. So I want to kind of continue to look at the games I played. There haven't been too many, but a few league games and the tournament that I played that finished a while back. So this was played at the beginning of March in the Icelandic League. My team was fighting for the top spot. We were not. We sort of had an outside chance going in. There were 4 rounds remaining, 5 rounds finished. So this was round 6. No, 5 remaining. It's actually 10 rounds. Yeah. So we play 5 teams and we play them. There are 2 weekends. So I already played against this team, and I also had white the first time we played this team. Could have gotten the same opponent, but I didn't. So this was, like I said, my first game since I played a league game in Norway. I played 2 league games in Norway, which was a lot of fun. And you can find that, I'll link to that. In a card, I played one of my best games, sacrificed a rook, got a fantastic attack, and gave me tremendous pleasure. But since then, early 2022, I didn't really play at all or study. Went through a bit of a slump, and things were a bit rough, but hopefully we're getting better. And let's look at the games, catch up. So like I said, this was played in the Icelandic League. I had the white pieces. My opponent in this game is an international master, Catalan. He became an international master by getting a nice result at the European Senior Championship, and he almost actually became champion. But he got a podium position, so he got the IM title, which is pretty fantastic. So okay, I decided to play the Catalan, which I've been trying to do more, try to get more serious, get a better, sort of more testing repertoire. And as much as I like the London system, I'm going to continue playing it, but I don't think you can make it your main opening and play it every time if you want to play at the level I want to play at. So need to have some weapons, and here I'm trying to build up again what I used to play, some d4 main lines. Now my opponent played bishop b4 check. He tends to play, sort of these Nimzo systems. Sometimes he goes, follows up with d5. And I managed to look him up on a site called openingtree.com, where you can look up your opponent's games. Get sort of a nice tree and see what they do. You can do this for Lead Chess and chess.com, and I found his chess.com account. So I decided to play knight d2. And I only had 1 hour to sort of look at what I might expect. I can look at, there are like 2-3 opponents that I might face. But 1 hour before the round, you get the lineup of your opponent's team. So 1 hour before the round I knew. And then I looked up, and I had done some work before that. Not much, but I looked him up and decided to play this line that I had been looking at. And in fact, I played this against the same team, and I have that game on my channel, which is another great Catalan game, which you should have a look at. Where I sacrificed a pawn, played great, but things don't always work out as planned, so you'll find out if you haven't seen the video. So here he switches over to the pure Catalan by playing d5. Normal moves, bishop d2, and he castles. Now in the other game, my opponent played knight c6 here. That was very interesting, and I do recommend you check that one out. Here, my opponent castled, knight f3, and he played a5, and I was expecting that. So, quickly played castled, and I saw in some games that he was playing here a4, which he didn't do here. He played knight b to d7. But I did a little bit of work. I found the chessable course that I'm following for this knight d2 stuff. And there he recommended to simply play knight b1 here, arguing that the knight is better placed on c3 now that the pawn has spent his time to come to a4. And continuation like this, and white has a pretty good and typical Catalan position, ready to capture here and put the knight to c3, and the game goes on. So this was sort of all of the preparation I had for this game, to be honest. So knight b to d7. So this move surprised me a little bit. I played queen c2. Now the question is, how does black continue here? I think black should be trying to play some kind of b6, maybe bishop b7, c5. The problem can't be that, okay, you've sort of surrendered this b5 square, but on the other hand, my knight takes a while. I would have to take some exaggerated route like we just did to get to this square. But he played rook e8. I played the general plan here, which is to play e4. You want to sort of chip away at this pawn. And why do you want to do that? Because you want this Catalan bishop down this long diagonal. That's sort of the general idea of the Catalan. So e4 is generally played the typical Catalan break. He took on e4 and I took the knight. Now here I was expecting him to take on e4 almost immediately. And in many lines you take here, and you play knight f6, and normal looking position. Compared to when you usually get this, he spent some time that, okay, maybe you don't always play a5 in these lines when you play c6, and you don't always play the bishop out here and then back. So I have some time issues going in my way compared to normal lines, but he played bishop f8 here, which was slightly surprising. And now, okay, I need to make a decision. I mean, I could take on f6 and transpose, I could leave it as it is, but I was happy with my decision. And it's a principle-based decision. So white has a slight space advantage, right? We have the pawns in the center and black doesn't. So what's the general rule of thumb when you have a space advantage, and also on the contrary, what's the rule when you have a space disadvantage? When you have a space disadvantage, you're happy to trade pieces. Take on e4, put the other knight on f6. You sort of, you're kind of clogged up, and okay, you get this piece out of the way, this one, and then you open up for the bishop maybe. So I was quite happy to play knight c3 here. Sort of keep my space advantage, and his pieces feels like they get in each other's way. So already here I was feeling comfortable because I felt like I have a good Catalan position where my opponent doesn't really have a clear plan. And for instance here he played c6. You'd love to play c5, but given my last move, knight c3, I'm quick to come here, and these weaknesses start to get felt here in the black camp. So c5 is a very committal move that my opponent clearly didn't want to make, and he played c6. So he's solid but passive. Here I made a move. If I had this position again, I would play something different. And I think, given what we said about the space advantage and the fact that black, has sort of spent time on a5, which he may not need, and he played bishop f8 and bishop back, I've gained some time, and I should just try to keep my space advantage. And the only break, because c5 doesn't make sense because of knight b5, I think the only break that kind of makes sense is to play e5. So I think I should simply stop that by playing rook e1 here. Just stopping this, and then get the pieces out. And white has an edge. Instead I play bishop f4, which does stop e5, but he can play knight h5, which I didn't fully expect, but I thought if he plays it, I'll just place my bishop back. In fact, I wasn't really sure where to go. Maybe I could go here, I could go maybe all the way back, I don't know. But bishop e3 made sense to me. I thought, okay, he hit my bishop, but his knight isn't really well placed on h5. I, however, do allow him to play e5 here, which he did. And I think that's the only break that makes sense, e5 here. So I think I should have played rook e1 to stop it, because now he frees his position up a little bit when you have this structure e6, e6. In the Catalan, in the Caracan and other openings, you want to play a break at some stage to free your position. So he does that. I think I made a good decision here to keep the tension. Rook a to d1. He played queen c7, but here I think I don't like my decision. I think I should have kept the tension. This tension here in the center, and I should have done that because it's more difficult for him to make moves. So if I just play around, sort of prophylactically, I think knight a4 is a strong move here. And the idea is simply to play against his pieces. He can't play this because I take, and probably take this. Actually, I can take immediately on e5. e4 is very committal, and I think that's maybe what I was struggling with. I would play knight d2, he would have to play f5. And I think white sort of has all the trumps here. I could maybe, open up this diagonal for some checks, maybe at some stage break f3, and it feels like black has weakened himself. And if he doesn't do that, it's difficult to move. Well, let's say he takes. I think taking with a bishop is even strong, because once again, if you play c5, the bishop simply goes back, and now you're chronically weak on b5. Put a knight there. You can't put a piece on c5 and blocking any of that. Still, you can't move your knight, and if you go the other way, maybe I start doing something like this, and just totally clamping down, playing prophylactically, playing against the pieces. So this is what I probably should have done. Keeping the tension. I think that's an important lesson here. First lesson, which I liked, was knight c3, to keep the pieces on. And here I think keeping the tension would have been a very good choice. Instead, after queen c7, I took on e5. D takes e5. My opponent took. I took twice. And now he sort of freed himself up. And I think not keeping the tension, I lost most of my advantage. I still think white is better here. We have, good pieces, centralized pieces. They can all be centralized somehow. This is slightly, out of play. But still, black doesn't have really a weakness. He wants to maybe play bishop f5, and then he's very solid. He gets the rook on the center files, fixes the knight, and probably I'd still have to play. And I think I was intending to play on the queen side, this knight a4 idea and stuff. But here I was again happy with my move. So he wants to get the bishop out. So how do we sort of prophylactically play against that? Well, he wants to get the bishop out, but to get the bishop out, if you do that, you lose control of the pawn. So I simply played queen b3, arguing that I still have, these nice pieces, and he hasn't completed development. So that was my idea. He nonetheless brought the bishop out to g4. Of course, he's hitting my rook, so I don't have time to capture on b7. And here I played rook d4. Hitting the bishop. He protected it with knight f6. And here I was spending a lot of time. I was trying to make work to take on b7, but I didn't like bishop c5. There are complications. I think the computer gives this as best to take on b7, allow bishop c5, play rook f4, something like that, but it's complicated. And in the end, I opt for a weird looking rook move. It's not often you have the rook kind of out there in the open in the middle game. But it turned out to be almost the MVP of the game. Now, post-mortem one could say that, yeah, I was playing this and I kind of had this idea in mind, blah, blah, blah. No, I didn't, but it turned out that the rook was good there. My original idea was simply, okay, I'm hitting this guy, I want to play bishop d4. And the queen is, if it wants to keep the bishop, it doesn't have time to protect here and stuff. And this actually worked out, because now he kind of blundered and played rook e to d8, stopping bishop d4. But now I can just simply safely take this pawn on b7, which I did. Queen takes b7. He played rook a to b8 to go for counterplay, but I had figured out, okay, my queen is safe. He's not going to trap my queen. He gets the b2 pawn. And at this point, I was pretty sure I'm winning this game. I played knight d5, and I just couldn't see how black is solving his problems. The first and main problem is I'm simply threatening to take on f6 with check, and then this bishop will drop. And all of a sudden, the position of this rook makes sense. It's attacking pieces, sort of a tactical piece. The other problem is, okay, first he played rook d6, I played queen a8. And I was quite happy with this inclusion. The second problem for him is I have bishop d4. The knight on d5, it closed down the diagonal. So actually, if we have a look at this position again, if he takes on d5, I can take with the bishop. And I'm hitting this, I'm hitting the bishop, and I have the threat of bishop d4, picking up this guy. So I thought my position was tremendous here, and probably he couldn't save it. Queen a8, he played queen e6, getting out of bishop d4 and protecting the bishop. Now, an easy move might have been bishop c5, which I saw, of course, but I saw a win which I thought was more clinical, cleaner, and also more aesthetic in a way. Well, you can pause the video here and try to find the sort of aesthetic way to win here. And I'm assuming you came back from your pause and you found the move knight takes f6. Now he has to take with the pawn because, well, he doesn't want to lose the queen. But it turns out he is going to lose the queen after which move? Rook takes g4, correct. Now if you move the king, it's just mate in 1. So you take here, and then what's my point? Well, remarkably, the heavy pieces don't work together at all, and my opponent resigned. Yes, this heavy piece can't come back, this heavy piece can't go back, and this heavy piece, it can't go back. So he has no way to contest the 8th rank, he has no way to protect the bishop with the queen. So the only available move is to give up the queen on g7, but that's simply too much material. He has only a rook for the queen, my bishop comes to d5, it's going to be a very easy win, pick up the a pawn, etc. So, pretty decent game, I think. And we managed to win this match, which gave us some chances, and yeah, I will come back to, you know, get my games up to date. So I will bring you my next game when the time is right. And hope to see you then. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye bye.